My husband said, "That fat woman disgusts me." I pretended not to hear, but the next morning, everything changed. You're probably wondering, how did I get here? Well, this isn't just a story about betrayal. It's a story about a woman pushed to the edge by the person she trusted the most, someone who vowed to love her forever. And just when I thought things couldn't get worse, I uncovered a truth that would destroy everything I thought I knew about my marriage. But before we dive into the shocking twists, hit that subscribe button, because this is a story you won't want to miss. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from. We're building a community of warriors, and your voice matters. Now, let's get into it. This all started on a normal Friday night, at the dinner table. We were supposed to be celebrating the perfect family dinner in our favorite restaurant, with Ellie laughing about something silly, and Adam, my husband, sitting across from me with his usual smile. But something felt off. His eyes kept drifting, not toward me, not toward Ellie, but toward her. Her name was Rachel. He'd worked with her for years, always speaking about her in glowing terms. "She's a great coworker, Julia. You'd love her," he'd say. But I never expected what I heard that night. I pushed the thought aside, the one thing I always tried to ignore, his subtle, growing distance from me. I wasn't blind to the late nights, the phone calls he'd hide, or the distant look in his eyes when we were alone. But that comment, that one comment, "That fat woman disgusts me," that was different. I shouldn't have heard it. I shouldn't have cared. But it was like a knife to the chest, and when I tried to brush it off, pretend I didn't hear it, I knew deep down. Things were about to take a turn for the worse. The next morning, when Adam acted like nothing happened, I had to wonder, had he said that on purpose? Was this a breaking point? But here's where it gets even worse. I found something. A piece of paper hidden in his jacket pocket, a phone number, a name, and a message that would change everything. But that was just the beginning. As I looked closer, everything I thought I knew about my husband began to shatter. That night, after everything settled, I finally did something I never thought I'd do. I snooped, and that was the moment everything changed. I opened his laptop, my hands shaking as I typed in his password, the same password he'd always used. 1234. How could I have missed the obvious signs? The morning after felt like a slow-motion train wreck. Adam was already up, the coffee machine humming as if nothing had happened. The sun streamed through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow on the breakfast table. Ellie was humming, distracted by her phone, while I tried my best to smile. But inside, everything was different. The words from last night haunted me. "That fat woman disgusts me." How could he say that? How could he look at me, the mother of his child, and speak with such contempt? Adam, always the master of pretending, gave me a peck on the cheek and went about his morning routine. His nonchalance was suffocating. I couldn't ignore it. I couldn't pretend like everything was okay. But what was I supposed to do? I thought about confronting him right then and there, but I knew it would lead to nothing. He'd deny everything, twist the narrative, and play the victim. I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. But I had to know more. I needed to understand why. As I looked over at him, moving around the kitchen like it was just another morning, I thought about the secrets he'd kept, the walls he'd built between us. Something was off. Always had been. But now I had a reason to find out why. That's when I noticed something odd. A small piece of paper sticking out from the back of his jacket pocket as he went to hang it in the closet. The number, the name. Rachel. I hadn't seen that name before. Who was she? I couldn't just sit there anymore. I needed answers. But I was terrified. Terrified of what I might find. Terrified that the man I'd spent over a decade with was hiding things. Things I couldn't even begin to imagine. As the day passed, I tried to act normal. I went through the motions. I helped Ellie with her homework. I made lunch. I cleaned the house. But inside, I was falling apart. I kept thinking about that piece of paper, about Rachel. Who was she? Was she just a coworker? Or was she something more? Later that night, after Ellie had gone to bed, I sat at the kitchen table, alone. The silence felt like 1,000 pounds pressing down on me. I could feel Adam's presence, his cold indifference, but I knew that tonight I couldn't wait any longer. I grabbed my phone. My fingers trembled as I searched for the number, the name Rachel burning in my mind. I stared at it for a long time, wondering if I was making a mistake. But I couldn't stop myself. I had to know. I dialed the number, and that was when everything started to unravel. The voice on the other end of the line wasn't who I expected. Rachel wasn't who I thought she was. And her words, they shook me to my core. The conversation with Rachel didn't go as I imagined. And what she said, what I learned that night, was the beginning of the darkest secret Adam had been hiding. But I wasn't ready to hear it. No one is ever ready for the truth. The next day, after the call with Rachel, I felt like I was living in a fog. The voice on the other end of the phone had been soft, almost hesitant. Rachel claimed she didn't know much, only that Adam had been acting strange lately. But something in her tone didn't sit right. I knew there was more. Adam was distant as usual, but his behavior had a new edge to it. He was on edge. I could feel it in the air between us. The way he avoided eye contact. The way his phone stayed glued to his hand. Later that afternoon, I saw him texting Rachel. I couldn't help it. I glanced at the screen. But this time, it wasn't just a work message. It was a message about plans. Same time tonight, 9 p.m. It hit me like a punch to the stomach. This wasn't about work. This wasn't just a coworker. This was something else. What was I supposed to do now? Confront him? What would I even say? How did I know I could trust Rachel's words? I needed more. I needed to see with my own eyes. That night, after Ellie went to bed, I waited. I couldn't sit still. The minutes dragged on, but I stayed quiet, watching Adam, waiting for him to slip up. I knew tonight was the night. I had to know the truth. It was 8:45 p.m. when Adam went into the bathroom. He left his phone on the counter. I hesitated for a moment. Was I really about to do this? My hands shook as I picked up his phone. I unlocked it. It was simple. He'd never bothered to change the code. He didn't think I'd ever question him. I scrolled through the messages, and there it was. The name, Rachel, and a picture that made my stomach turn. It was a selfie. Rachel and Adam sitting side by side, smiling, their faces too close, their arms around each other. I froze. Was this it? Was this the betrayal I had been ignoring? And then, as if to confirm all my fears, another message appeared. I can't wait to see you tomorrow, love. Just make sure she doesn't find out. I couldn't breathe. My mind was racing. He had been hiding this from me, this entire time. I was just another woman in his life, another person he could lie to, manipulate. I was disgusted, but I was also hurt and angry, more than I had ever been before. When Adam came back into the room, I was still sitting there, phone in hand. He looked at me, and I could see the flicker of nervousness in his eyes. But he didn't say a word. I stood up slowly, my voice shaking with a quiet fury. Who is Rachel, Adam? He went pale, but he tried to play it off just like always. He laughed nervously, dismissing me as paranoid and telling me it was nothing, that I was overreacting. But I wasn't stupid. I had the proof now, and I was done pretending. That night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. The betrayal burned in my chest, a constant reminder of everything Adam had hidden from me. But I knew one thing for sure now. I couldn't keep pretending anymore. The next day, I called Rachel. It was time to hear the truth from her mouth. No more guessing. But when she answered the phone, her voice sounded different. Not the hesitant tone from before. This time, she sounded confident. "You've figured it out, haven't you, Julia?" she asked, as though she'd been expecting my call. I was silent for a moment. How could she be so calm? I took a deep breath. "Tell me everything. What's really going on between you and Adam?" And that's when Rachel told me everything. Everything I didn't want to hear. It was worse than I could have imagined. Rachel wasn't just Adam's co-worker. She wasn't just an affair. No, she was something much darker. She had been manipulating him, using his weaknesses to her advantage. She had been the one pulling the strings all along. But the worst part? Adam wasn't the only one she was manipulating. Rachel had plans that involved more than just Adam, and I was about to become a part of them. At this point, I was drowning in lies and deceit. But what do you think? Was Julia right to confront Rachel? Should she have gone to Adam first? Or was confronting Rachel the only way forward? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to hit subscribe, because the twists aren't over yet. We're just getting started. I thought the worst was behind me, but as Rachel's words sunk in, I realized that my marriage was only the beginning of a much bigger nightmare. A nightmare that would change everything. I sat there, in the quiet of my kitchen, the phone pressed against my ear as Rachel's voice echoed in my mind. The words she spoke, they were still ringing, unsettling, twisting in my gut. I couldn't process it all at once, but I had to. I had no choice now. "You don't get it, Julia," Rachel had said, her voice cold, almost bored. "Adam is weak. He always has been. I just gave him what he needed." I could barely breathe. Weak? Adam was weak? What did she mean by that? My mind raced. I knew Adam had always struggled with his emotions, but I never imagined he could be so easily manipulated. And then it hit me. Rachel wasn't just an affair. She was something darker, a puppet master pulling Adam's strings. "What are you talking about, Rachel?" I demanded, trying to hold my composure. "What's going on between you and him? What did you make him do?" There was a brief silence on the other end of the line before she responded, her tone growing darker, more sinister. "It's simple," she said, a cold edge to her words. "I gave him something you couldn't. Control. And he liked it. He liked the way I made him feel important, powerful. And now? Now I've got him wrapped around my finger." I felt my world crash around me. My husband, the man I had trusted with everything, had become someone I didn't recognize. He had been weak enough to fall for Rachel's manipulation, but worse than that, he hadn't just fallen for it. He had allowed it to destroy us. Rachel had already said it. Adam was weak. But the worst part? He wasn't the only one she was manipulating. I realized then, Rachel had been plotting something bigger, something far more dangerous than just an affair. She was controlling him, yes. But what was her ultimate goal? I couldn't sit still any longer. I needed to find out more, and I knew exactly where to look. I spent the rest of the evening rifling through Adam's things, his desk, his briefcase, even his bank statements. My hands were trembling as I went through every detail, but I didn't care. I needed the truth. I needed to understand what I had missed. And then? I found it. An email that made my stomach drop. It was from Adam's account, sent to Rachel, but it wasn't just a message about their affair. No, this was something more chilling. It was a list of instructions, things he had been doing for her. Money transfers, details of private meetings, even a signed agreement that I had never seen before. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen. My head spun. I could barely process the gravity of what I had uncovered. Adam wasn't just in an affair. He was involved in something criminal. Money laundering, Fraud? I didn't know. But it was clear that Rachel wasn't just manipulating his emotions. She was controlling his every move. And the worst part? Adam had signed off on it all. That was when I realized that Rachel had been using him as a pawn for something far bigger. She wasn't just after his attention. She was after his resources, his influence. And now, Adam was too deep to get out. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about something much more dangerous, something that would cost him, and me, everything I had to confront him. No more lies, no more pretending. But this time, I wouldn't just confront him about the affair. This time I was going to uncover everything, no matter what the cost. But before I could go to Adam, before I could make him face the truth, there was something I had to do first. I needed help. I couldn't do this alone anymore. I called Megan. She'd been there for me through so much, and I needed her more than ever now. When I told her everything, about the affair, about the money transfers, about the manipulation, there was a long silence on the other end of the phone. "You're not alone in this, Julia," she said finally. "I'll help you. But you have to be ready for what's coming. What you've uncovered. It's just the tip of the iceberg." I took a deep breath. Megan was right. I wasn't ready for what I was about to face. But I couldn't back down now. The man I thought I knew was a stranger. And Rachel, she wasn't just an affair anymore. She was a dangerous force I had to stop. But as I prepared to confront Adam, a nagging thought kept running through my mind. What if I was too late? What if Rachel had already taken everything from me? I had to move fast. But I knew that no matter what happened next, everything in my life would be changed forever. The next day, I waited for Adam to come home. The moment he walked through the door, I knew it was time. The truth was coming out, and he wouldn't be able to hide anymore. Everything was about to change. The confrontation with Adam was coming, and so was the shocking truth I was about to uncover. But nothing could prepare me for what I would learn next. I could barely sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Adam's face. The way he had avoided me, the way he had looked at Rachel. It haunted me. The proof was right there, sitting in front of me. The bank transfers, the emails, the documents signed in his name. But what was I supposed to do with it all? The next morning, I called Megan again, my voice tight with panic. "Megan, I don't know what to do. I found everything he's been hiding. But if I go to him with this now, I'm afraid it will be too late. He'll spin it. He'll twist it all and make me look crazy." Megan's voice was steady, calm, even though I could tell she understood how deep this was. "You've got the power now, Julia. You have everything you need. But you can't wait any longer. You need to confront him with it. The longer you wait, the more control he'll have. And Rachel, she won't stop. You have to face this head on." I took a deep breath and tried to steady myself. Megan was right. I couldn't keep running from the truth. I had to go to Adam. But I knew that once I confronted him, there would be no going back. As I walked toward the living room, my hands shaking, I saw him sitting on the couch, his laptop open, pretending to work. He looked up when I entered, his face momentarily flicking with unease before he masked it with a forced smile. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. He closed his laptop quickly, a little too quickly. "What about?" he asked, his voice almost too casual. But I could see the tension in his shoulders. He knew something was coming. "You know exactly what this is about," I said, pulling the papers from my bag. I slammed them down onto the coffee table, letting the documents spread out between us. Proof of his lies, his betrayal, his collusion with Rachel. I had all of it. Everything. Adam's face went pale. His eyes darted from the papers to me, back to the papers. He opened his mouth to say something, but the words didn't come. It was as if I had stolen his breath away. "You've been lying to me. About her. About everything. I don't care about your excuses anymore, Adam. I want the truth. Now. I waited. The silence stretched on. Then, finally, Adam spoke, his voice soft, almost defeated. It's not what you think. I couldn't believe it. How many times had I heard that phrase? How many times had he used it to justify his actions? Really? I asked, my voice sharp. Then explain it to me. Explain the emails. Explain the money transfers. Explain her. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stood up and walked to the window, looking out as if searching for the right words. The silence between us grew thick, suffocating. When he turned back to face me, his expression had changed. There was no more calmness, no more pretense, only a coldness that I hadn't seen before. Rachel wasn't just an affair, Julia. She was helping me with something. Something big. I got in over my head. Helping you? Helping you do what? I asked, my voice trembling now with a mix of shock and disbelief. Adam took a deep breath and finally gave me the words I had been dreading. We got involved in some shady business. Rachel, she knew people. People who could help me out of some debts, some financial troubles I'd gotten into. And I thought I could control it. But I couldn't. It spiraled out of control. I felt a wave of nausea roll through me. He had lied. He hadn't just been having an affair. He had been involved in something far more dangerous. Rachel wasn't just a lover. She was his partner in crime. You've been hiding this from me? From Ellie? You've been lying to us both, and now, because of you, everything we've built is falling apart. Adam took a step forward, reaching for my hand, but I pulled away. I didn't want his touch, not anymore. Julia, I'm sorry. I didn't want you to get involved in this, but it's too late now. The people we owe money to, they're not going to let us get out of this. They'll come for us. They'll come for you and Ellie, too. I stared at him, trying to process everything he had just said. The truth was worse than I imagined. He hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. He had dragged us into something dangerous. This wasn't just about our marriage anymore. It was about survival. I don't care about your apologies anymore, Adam. I care about getting out of this. I care about protecting my daughter. But as I turned to leave, Adam grabbed my arm, his grip tightening. Julia, he said, his voice desperate. You don't understand. If you leave, they'll come for you. You'll be a part of this, whether you want to be or not. Everything was spinning out of control. The lies, the betrayal, the dangerous people Adam had gotten involved with. There was no turning back now, and I knew that what came next would be the hardest decision I'd ever have to make. I pulled away from Adam, feeling his hand still gripping my arm, his fingers digging in as if he could keep me from leaving. His eyes were wide with desperation, but something had changed inside me. I no longer recognized him. The man I once loved, the man I had trusted, was gone. All that was left was a stranger, someone I couldn't trust, someone who had dragged me into a world of lies, manipulation, and danger. Let me go, Adam, I said, my voice low, barely above a whisper, but there was steel in it now. I had reached my breaking point. He let go of my arm, his face pale and haunted. He stepped back, and for a moment, we stood there in silence, the weight of his confession hanging in the air between us. You never thought about me, did you? I asked, my voice breaking as I spoke the words I had kept hidden for so long. You never thought about Ellie, about what this would do to us. Adam opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. The truth was now laid bare in front of both of us. His lies, his deceit, they were all exposed. And I was done pretending that everything was okay. I gave you everything, Adam. And this is how you repay me? I continued, stepping back, feeling the space between us widen. You've made a fool of me. You've put our entire family at risk. I felt the tears welling up in my eyes. but I didn't let them fall. Not yet. Not when I still had control of this situation. Adam's face was full of regret, but it didn't matter. I couldn't take him back. Not now. Not after everything he had done. "You don't get it, Julia," Adam said, his voice strained. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I never wanted you to get caught up in this mess. But it's too late now. We're both in it. There's no going back. They're going to come for us. They're going to come for you, for Ellie." His words hit me like a punch to the chest. The fear was real, and I could see the terror in his eyes, but it didn't matter anymore. He had made his choices, and I had made mine. "I'm done, Adam. You're on your own." I turned away from him, walking toward the door. As my hand touched the knob, I heard him call out my name, his voice breaking with emotion. "Julia, please, don't leave me. I'll fix this, I swear. I can fix everything." But I didn't stop. I couldn't. I had spent too long waiting for him to change, for him to wake up and realize the damage he was causing. And now, I realized that I couldn't keep waiting for him. He had already chosen Rachel and his own self-destruction over me, over us. As I stepped out into the night, the weight of everything I had just learned began to hit me. It wasn't just Adam I had to confront anymore. It was the world he had dragged me into, the dangerous web he had spun, the people involved. Rachel wasn't just some other woman. She was at the center of all of this, and she wasn't going to stop. I knew what I had to do, but I didn't know if I could survive it. The next morning, I received an anonymous letter. It was simple, typed out on a plain piece of paper. But the words were clear. "We know what you've discovered, and we're coming for you." The message was short, but it was enough. Enough to send a chill down my spine. Enough to make me realize just how deep Adam's involvement went, and how much danger we were really in. The letter wasn't the end of it. It was just the beginning. Now I had to make a choice: stay and fight for my family's safety, or run and risk everything. But how could I run when I knew what was at stake? I had to fight, and I had to do it fast. I couldn't escape it. The weight of the letter in my hand felt like a chain around my wrist, pulling me deeper into a nightmare I never asked for. The words haunted me, replaying in my head like a drumbeat. "We know what you've discovered, and we're coming for you." I didn't know who "we" was, but I knew it wasn't just Adam who had put me in danger. It was Rachel, and the people she had gotten him tangled up with. They were serious, and they weren't going to stop. The fear that had started to creep in began to overtake me. But as much as I wanted to run, to take Ellie and disappear, I couldn't. Not now. Not after everything that had happened. This was my family's future. It was mine. I needed answers, more than I'd ever needed them before. And I needed to act fast. I decided to go to the one place I could get answers. The man who had been helping Adam all along. The man behind the shadowy business dealings. The one who had been controlling everything. It wasn't just about confronting Adam anymore. It was about survival. About protecting Ellie. About taking back control. I called Megan again, my voice shaking as I explained what had happened. She didn't hesitate. "You need to find out who's really behind all this," Megan said, her voice firm. "It's not just Adam and Rachel. There's a bigger game at play, Julia, and you can't fight this alone." I knew she was right. I couldn't keep waiting for Adam to fix this. He'd proven time and again that he couldn't be trusted. And Rachel? She was part of something bigger. But who could I trust? I started by tracking down the person Adam had been meeting with, the one who might hold the answers. It wasn't easy. I had to dig deeper into Adam's emails, into his financial records, and find a name, someone who had been involved in these transactions. But finally, I found it. The name I had been looking for, Victor Holloway. I didn't know much about Victor, only that he was someone Adam had been communicating with regularly. Someone who had ties to illegal activities, money laundering, fraudulent schemes, things I couldn't even wrap my head around. But now, I had no choice. I needed to confront him. I found his address, a rundown building on the outskirts of town, hidden among the shadows of a district I knew all too well. The last place I wanted to go, but the only place I could get the answers I needed. I drove there that afternoon, my hands white-knuckling the steering wheel. Ellie was at school, and I was alone. I had to make this decision on my own. No one else to help me but my own determination. I parked in the lot, the eerie silence of the building in front of me only amplifying the tension in my chest. I wasn't sure what I was walking into, but I knew I couldn't back down. Not now. I walked up to the door and knocked. My heart hammered in my chest, each second stretching into eternity. And when the door opened, I saw him. Victor Holloway. He wasn't what I expected. Taller, older, with a hard edge to him that made my stomach twist. But there was no turning back now. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the fear rising within me. Victor's eyes flicked over me, sizing me up, calculating, before stepping aside to let me in. "You've got guts, I'll give you that," he said, his voice low and threatening. "Not many people come looking for me, not unless they're desperate." I walked inside, my mind racing. I didn't know what to expect, but I knew this wasn't going to be an easy conversation. I had to know what Adam had gotten us into, and how I could get out of it. Victor didn't waste time. "You're here because you know too much. You want to know what Adam's been involved in, and I'm guessing you're not leaving until you do." I nodded, my jaw tight with determination. "What's going on, Victor? What's Adam really been doing?" Victor leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowing as he looked at me. "Adam's a pawn, Julia. Just like you. But you're about to be more than just a victim. You're already caught up in this. The question is, how far are you willing to go to get out?" The cold realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Adam wasn't just a man involved in shady business. He was deeply entangled in something far worse, and I was already involved, whether I liked it or not. "What do you want from me?" I asked, my voice steady as I stared him down. "I want you to understand the game you're playing, Julia. Adam thought he could control it. But in the end, there's only one rule in this world. You either play the game, or the game plays you." I knew then that I wasn't just fighting for my marriage anymore. I was fighting for my survival, and I didn't know who would win. But I couldn't stop. Not now. Victor's words hung in the air as I left his office. I knew now that there was no easy way out. I had crossed a line, and there was no turning back. The game was far more dangerous than I had ever imagined, and I had no choice but to play. The drive back from Victor's office felt like a slow-motion car crash. My hands still shook on the steering wheel as I replayed everything he had said. Adam was a pawn. I was already caught up in a game I never signed up for. And the worst part? I didn't know who the real players were. Victor's words echoed in my mind. You either play the game, or the game plays you. But how could I possibly play a game where the rules were still a mystery to me? I needed answers. But the more I uncovered, the more I realized I was drowning in a sea of lies, deceit, and danger. Adam had dragged me into this mess, but he wasn't going to get away with it. Not anymore. I called Megan once again, my voice tight with a mix of fear and resolve. "Megan, I'm done waiting. I'm going to confront Adam. I have to. I can't keep living in the dark, pretending like everything's okay." There was a long pause on the other end of the line before she spoke. "Julia, you need to be careful. If you go after Adam now, if you force him into a corner, he could turn on you. You're not just up against him, Julia. You're up against people with far more power than you realize." I knew she was right, but I had no choice. I couldn't sit back and let Adam drag me and Ellie down any further. I had to know everything. I had to confront him, even if it meant tearing everything apart. When I walked into our house that evening, the air felt different. He was sitting in the living room as usual, his eyes glued to the TV. He looked up when I entered, but his expression was one I couldn't read. It was as if he was preparing for something. I stood still in the doorway, my heart pounding. This wasn't going to be easy, but I had to do it. I wasn't afraid anymore. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady but with an edge of finality. No more lies, no more excuses. He didn't move. Instead, he just nodded, his face pale. But this time, there was no smugness, no defensiveness. This time, I had him. I could see the fear in his eyes. "What do you want from me, Julia?" he asked, his voice low and strained. "I've already told you everything." "You haven't told me anything, Adam. I know about the money. I know about Rachel. I know about the debts and the people you've been dealing with." His face turned a shade paler, his hands trembling slightly. I could feel the walls he'd built around him beginning to crack, and I knew that now was the time to push harder. "Who else is involved, Adam?" I demanded. "Who are you really working with? Who's pulling your strings?" He looked at me, his eyes searching for an escape. I can't tell you everything," he whispered. "You wouldn't believe me. I don't want you to be involved in this. It's too dangerous." I took a deep breath, trying to hold back the anger that was rising inside me. "You don't get it, do you? It's too late for that. I've already been involved. You've already dragged me into this. But you never thought about the consequences, did you? You never thought about Ellie. About me." His face twisted in guilt. But I didn't care anymore. There was no more room for forgiveness. Not now. Not after everything that had happened. "Please, Julia," Adam said, his voice cracking. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I swear. It's not what you think. No. You don't get to say that anymore, Adam. You've lied to me for too long. I need the truth. Now." And that's when he said it. The one thing that made everything click into place. The thing that terrified me more than anything else he had ever said. "It's not just Rachel, Julia. There's someone worse. Someone much more dangerous. And they're coming for you." I had no idea who Adam was talking about, but I knew one thing for sure. This was only the beginning. The people Adam had gotten involved with weren't just criminals. They were dangerous. And they were coming for me. The game had changed again, and this time, there was no escaping. Adam's words still echoed in my ears as I stood there, frozen in place. "There's someone worse, Julia. Someone much more dangerous. And they're coming for you." His face was pale, his eyes filled with fear. But it wasn't the fear of someone who'd made a mistake. This was the fear of someone who knew the hell they had just unleashed. And now, I was caught in it. I couldn't breathe. The weight of what he had said, the realization that this wasn't just about money or infidelity anymore. It was about something much darker. Who was he talking about? I stared at him, trying to process his words, but they didn't make sense. And deep down, I knew, whatever this was, it was much bigger than I could imagine. "Who, Adam?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Who's coming for me?" Adam shook his head, his lips trembling. "I can't say. It's too dangerous, Julia. You don't understand. If you get involved, if you start digging deeper, they'll come after you. They'll come after Ellie. And once they do..." His voice trailed off, the implications hanging in the air between us. I could feel the room closing in around me. "I don't care anymore, Adam," I snapped. "You've already dragged me into this. You've already put my family at risk. Don't you dare try to protect me now. If there's something I need to know, you're going to tell me." His eyes shifted away from mine, his guilt evident. He knew I wasn't going to back down. I wasn't asking anymore. I was demanding the truth. Adam, who is this person? I pressed, my voice cold. Who's really behind this? He finally looked back at me, his face a mask of regret and fear. His name is Marcus Calloway. He's the one I've been dealing with. Rachel works for him. He's the one pulling the strings, the one who's been controlling everything. And if you don't stay out of it, Julia, you won't just be a target. You'll be marked for life. Marcus Calloway. The name hit me like a ton of bricks. I didn't know him, but I had heard of him. He wasn't just a criminal. He was a powerful figure in the underground world, a name feared by even the most dangerous people. I had no idea how deep Adam was in it, how far he had fallen into this abyss. I turned away from Adam, my head spinning. I had to think. I had to make a plan. But I didn't know how much longer I had before Marcus and his people came for me. I couldn't trust Adam. I couldn't trust anyone anymore. I grabbed my phone, quickly calling Megan again. Her voice was immediate, knowing something was wrong before I even spoke. Julia, what happened? What did he say? It's worse than I thought, Megan, I said, my voice tight with fear. It's not just Adam. He's working for someone dangerous. His name is Marcus Calloway, and if we don't act fast, he'll come for us, for Ellie. I don't know what to do. You're not alone in this, Julia, Megan replied firmly. I've been talking to someone who can help. But we need to move fast. Marcus Calloway won't stop until he's in control, and if he thinks you're a threat, you won't make it out. Her words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of the reality I was now facing. But I couldn't back down. I wouldn't let my family fall apart. Not like this. I need to meet them, I said, a fire igniting within me. I need to know who they are. If we're going to survive this, I need to know how to protect us. Megan agreed, and just like that, everything changed. My life, my marriage, none of it mattered anymore. There was only one thing left to fight for: survival. But as I prepared to meet with Megan's contact, I realized something. The danger wasn't just from Marcus or Rachel. It was from everyone I had trusted. Adam had betrayed me, yes, but he was just a pawn in a much larger game. A game I was now forced to play, whether I liked it or not. The next day, I met with Megan's contact, someone who promised to help me get out of this mess. But when I walked into the meeting, I had no idea who I could trust anymore. The real question wasn't just about getting out of this situation. It was whether I could even trust myself to make it out alive. The night before my meeting with Megan's contact, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, the image of Adam's pale face, the fear in his eyes, flashed before me. His confession about Marcus Calloway had shaken me to my core, but now there was no turning back. I didn't know what to expect when I sat across from Megan's contact. Who were they? What would they ask of me? I had no idea, but I had no choice anymore. I needed their help. I needed to survive this. The next morning, I arrived at the cafe where we had agreed to meet. It was a quiet place, tucked away from the chaos of the city. The kind of place where no one would bat an eye if you were having a conversation you didn't want overheard. I walked in, my heart pounding in my chest, trying to steady my breath. I scanned the room, looking for Megan's contact. And then I saw her. She was sitting in the far corner, a woman in her early 40s, dressed in a sharp black jacket, her expression unreadable. Her dark eyes met mine as I approached, and for a moment, I felt the weight of her gaze, as if she could see straight through me. She wasn't here to make friends. She was here to make a deal. I sat down across from her. She didn't introduce herself immediately. Instead, she studied me for a moment, as if trying to gauge how desperate I was. "You're Julia," she said finally, her voice low and calm. "I've been briefed. You need protection from Marcus Calloway. You've got a lot of questions, but I'm afraid you'll have to earn the answers." "What do you want from me?" I asked, my voice firm despite the chaos swirling inside me. How can you help me get out of this? She leaned forward slightly, her eyes narrowing. I can help you, Julia, but it won't be free. Nothing comes without a price. I felt my heart skip a beat. What kind of price was she talking about? What kind of price? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She shrugged, as if the terms of the deal were simple. Marcus has power, but so do I. And if you want my help, you'll have to work for it. You'll have to do something for me. And trust me, it won't be easy. I didn't know whether I should be relieved or terrified, but I knew I had no choice. I had to hear her out. I couldn't survive on my own, not against someone like Marcus. But I wasn't ready to just roll over and give in to whoever this woman was. What's the deal? I asked again, more forcefully this time. She studied me for a moment longer, her lips curling into a small, almost predatory smile. I need you to infiltrate Marcus's network. I need you to get close to him, gain his trust, and find out everything he's hiding. And in return, I'll help you. Protect you from him, from everyone. I'll make sure you and your daughter get out of this safely. I froze. The words hung in the air, their weight pressing down on me. I had to get close to Marcus? To become part of the dangerous world I had been trying to escape? I could feel my stomach turn. I didn't want to do this. But what choice did I have? You want me to betray Marcus? I asked, my voice a little unsteady. You want me to become a part of this world, to help you take him down? The woman nodded, her eyes gleaming with something I couldn't quite place. Betray him? No, I want you to use him. You'll work your way into his trust, then you'll feed me everything he's doing, his dealings, his allies, his secrets. And once I have that, I'll bring him down, and you'll be safe. I stared at her for a long time. The decision weighed heavily on me. If I said yes, I'd be crossing a line I couldn't come back from. But if I said no, I might not make it out alive. Not with Marcus after me. Not with the people he had working for him. I'll do it, I said finally, the words leaving my mouth before I could think them through. I'll get close to him. I'll find out what he's hiding. Her smile widened, as if she'd been expecting this answer. Good, she said, her voice almost approving. You've just made a very smart decision, Julia. Now, let's talk about the next steps. As we went over the details, my stomach twisted. I didn't know if I was making the right choice. But I knew one thing. I had just entered a world where there was no going back. The next day, I walked into Marcus Calloway's office. I had been briefed, prepared for what I would say, but nothing could prepare me for the moment I saw him, standing in front of me, his cold eyes scanning me as if he already knew who I was. And that's when I realized I wasn't just playing a game anymore. I was in the fight of my life. Walking into Marcus Calloway's office felt like stepping into the mouth of a lion. I had prepared myself, gone over every detail, every word I needed to say. But nothing could have prepared me for the intensity in his eyes when he looked at me. He stood tall behind a massive desk, his dark eyes assessing me like a predator evaluating its prey. And I knew, deep down, I was both. I had no choice but to keep my cool. If I let a single crack show, he would see right through me. I had to be convincing, play the part of someone who had nothing to hide. Ms. Montgomery, he said, his voice deep and controlled, a quiet power emanating from him. I've heard a lot about you. It's not every day someone comes knocking on my door for a deal like this. I stepped forward, offering a controlled smile, one I had practiced 1,000 times before. I'm here because I believe we can help each other, Mr. Calloway. I've heard a lot about you, too. His eyes flickered, just for a moment, as though he was sizing me up. It was subtle, but I felt the change in the air. He wasn't just looking at me as a potential ally. He was testing me, and I had to pass his test. I'm intrigued, Ms. Montgomery, he said slowly, his gaze unwavering. What exactly do you think you can offer me? I stood my ground. I can offer you access, Mr. Calloway, information. I've been looking into your business, your connections, and I have something you might find useful. I had no idea if he'd buy it, but it was the only thing I could offer that might get me closer to the truth. He didn't speak right away. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled in front of him. For a moment, I thought he was going to dismiss me, that he would see through my facade and throw me out. But then, to my surprise, he smiled. You have guts. I'll give you that, Julia. But trust me, if you're going to play in my world, you'd better be ready for what comes next. It's not as simple as you think. I could feel the heat of his gaze now, the weight of his presence bearing down on me. He wasn't just testing me. He was letting me know that I was a pawn in a game I hadn't even begun to understand. I'm ready, I said, forcing the words out, even though my heart was racing. I have to be. My family's life depends on it. Marcus studied me for a moment longer before nodding slowly, his smile growing wider. Good. Then let's see how far you're willing to go. The words hung in the air, and a cold shiver ran down my spine. I knew at that moment that I had just crossed a line I could never uncross. There was no turning back now. I was in his world, and if I wasn't careful, I might not make it out. Marcus stood, his movements deliberate, controlled, like a predator preparing to strike. Come with me, he said, walking toward a door at the back of the room. There's someone I want you to meet. I followed him without hesitation, my mind racing. Who was he taking me to? What was he planning? I couldn't afford to show fear, but I could feel it building in my chest. Everything about this man screamed danger, and I had no idea what kind of game he was playing. We entered a private office, much smaller, more intimate. There was a man sitting behind a desk, his back to us. He turned around slowly, and the moment I saw his face, I knew something was wrong. This man. I recognized him. It was Victor Holloway, the same man I had met weeks ago, the one who had warned me about Marcus's influence. But now he was working with him. I had no idea what had changed, but I knew this was bad. Victor, Marcus said smoothly, this is Julia Montgomery. She's here to make a deal. Victor stood up and extended his hand, but there was no warmth in his gesture. It felt forced, like he was sizing me up, just as Marcus had done. We've heard a lot about you, Julia, Victor said, his voice calm but carrying an edge. But the question is, how much are you really willing to sacrifice? His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I knew exactly what he meant, what they both meant. This wasn't just a business deal. This wasn't about survival anymore. It was about control. I'm here to protect my family, I said, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions raging inside me. Nothing more, nothing less. Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. Then you'll do what it takes, Julia. Or you'll lose everything. I didn't know what to say to that. I didn't know what they wanted from me. But I knew one thing for sure. I was walking deeper into the abyss. And the only way out was to play the game they had set up for me. But could I win? Or would I be swallowed whole by the people who had already decided my fate? As they both turned away from me, I felt a cold knot in my stomach. This wasn't just about playing Marcus's game anymore. It was about surviving it, and I had no idea how deep this rabbit hole went. But I was going to find out. I was no longer just a witness to this dangerous world. I was in it, and I was about to find out just how much I was willing to sacrifice to protect the people I loved. The days that followed were a blur of decisions and dangers. The more I got involved with Marcus and Victor, the more I realized just how deep I was sinking. This wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about how much I was willing to lose to stay alive. Every moment I spent in their presence felt like a gamble. They were watching me, testing me. And no matter how much I tried to hold on to the woman I used to be, I knew I was changing. The woman who walked into Marcus's office for the first time was no longer the same woman standing here today. I had crossed a line, and there was no going back. I sat across from Marcus and Victor again, in the same darkened office, the air thick with unspoken threats. This time, I had no illusions. I wasn't here for a friendly chat. I was here to prove myself, or to fail miserably. "I trust you understand what's at stake, Julia," Marcus said, his voice smooth, but with an edge of menace I couldn't ignore. "If you're going to be a part of this, you need to commit. Completely." "I'm here to protect my family," I said, my voice steady despite the nervousness gnawing at my insides. "I'll do whatever it takes, but I won't betray myself." Victor leaned forward, his piercing gaze locking onto mine, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of something, admiration or perhaps amusement. He knew what I was going through, the struggle between survival and soul-crushing compromise. "It's not about betrayal, Julia," he said, his voice low, almost coaxing. "It's about survival. If you're not willing to adapt, to bend, then you're already dead." The words hit me hard. I had no choice. This was my new reality. I wasn't just fighting for my marriage anymore. I was fighting for my life, and if I didn't give them what they wanted, they'd destroy me. Destroy everything I held dear. "So, what now?" I asked, keeping my voice steady, forcing my nerves to quiet. "What do you need me to do?" Marcus's lips curled into a smirk, and I knew then that he'd been waiting for this moment. He was always several steps ahead, pulling me deeper into his web. "We need you to get close to Adam again," Marcus said. "We need to find out exactly how much he's told you. He's been a liability for too long. If you can get him to trust you again, to spill everything, we'll know exactly how to move forward." "You want me to go back to him?" I asked, my voice cracking. "After everything he's done? After what I know?" Marcus's gaze never wavered. "You'll have to. You can't afford to let him see you as a threat. Get close, keep him close, and get the information we need. Then you can go back to your family, safe and sound." The thought of returning to Adam, after everything that had happened, made my stomach turn. But I knew there was no way out. I had to play along. If I didn't, I'd be leaving my family vulnerable. I'd be giving up my last chance at survival. I felt sick, but I nodded. "Fine, I'll do it." I spent the next few days working my way back into Adam's life, carefully crafting my approach. I couldn't let him see how much I knew, how much he'd betrayed me. I had to make him think I was still the woman who loved him, who was willing to forgive him. The last thing I wanted to do was give him a reason to panic. When I finally saw him again, it felt like a lifetime had passed since we'd been together. His face had changed. There was a hardness to it now, something that wasn't there before. But his eyes still held that same flicker of hope, as though he thought everything could go back to normal. "Julia, I'm so sorry," Adam said, his voice filled with regret. "I never wanted any of this to happen. I know I've hurt you, but I need you to understand. Everything I've done, it was to protect us. I swear I didn't mean to drag you into this." I forced myself to hold back the disgust I felt. His words meant nothing to me anymore. It was just a game, and I was playing my part. "I know, Adam," I said softly, taking his hand in mine. "I understand, but we need to work together. We need to figure this out, before it's too late." He believed me. For now. He thought I was still the same woman who cared about him, who wanted to fix our broken marriage. But I was playing a different game now, a dangerous one. I spent the next few days working on Adam, convincing him that I was still in it for us. But I knew the truth. I wasn't doing this for him. I was doing this to survive, to protect Ellie, to protect myself. But the more I got close to Adam, the more I realized just how much danger I was really in. Marcus Calloway was a monster, and he wasn't going to let me walk away from this unscathed. The game had only just begun, and the consequences of losing would be more than I could bear. Every step forward felt like it was pulling me deeper into their world. I couldn't trust Adam anymore, but I couldn't afford to lose him either. The walls were closing in, and I wasn't sure how long I could keep pretending. I had played my part for months, working my way into Adam's trust, pretending to care while all along I was working for Marcus. Each day I smiled, held his hand, and acted like everything was normal, like I didn't know the truth. But inside, I was falling apart. The moment I had feared finally came. The moment when I couldn't pretend anymore. When everything I had been doing, everything I had been hiding, caught up with me. It started with a phone call, the one I never saw coming. It was from Megan, her voice shaking with urgency. "Julia, you need to get out, now. They know everything." I felt the ground shift beneath me. It was too late. The web I'd been caught in, the lies I'd been telling, they were about to collapse. "What do you mean, Megan?" I demanded, my voice trembling. "Who knows?" Megan didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, it was barely a whisper, but the weight of her words hit me like a ton of bricks. "Marcus knows, and he's coming for you." I didn't need to hear more. I had failed. I had betrayed myself, my family, and my soul in an effort to survive. But now, Marcus was taking control. He was going to make me pay for what I had done. I couldn't just sit there and wait to be caught. I had to act. I grabbed my phone and texted Adam, "Meet me, tonight. I need to tell you everything." But even as I typed the words, I knew it might be too late for him to save me. I spent the rest of the day packing a bag, making plans in my head. I was going to run, take Ellie and disappear before Marcus got his hands on me. But just as I was about to leave, I heard the doorbell ring. My heart stopped. It was Marcus. He was already here. I couldn't think. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know where to go. I only knew that if I didn't get away from him, I wouldn't just lose my life. I'd lose everything I had ever known. I opened the door, and there he was. Marcus Calloway, standing in front of me like a dark shadow I couldn't escape. "We need to talk," he said, his voice calm, almost casual. But I knew this wasn't a conversation. This was a reckoning. I stood frozen, my mind racing. "What do you want from me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Marcus stepped forward, his eyes cold and calculating. "I want you to understand the consequences of your choices, Julia. You thought you could play both sides, but now, you're mine." He was right. I had played a dangerous game, and now I was caught in it. But I wouldn't let him win. I wouldn't go down without a fight. "No," I said, my voice firmer now, despite the fear gnawing at me. "I'm not yours. I'm not anyone's." In that moment, something inside me snapped. I knew I couldn't let him control me anymore. I couldn't let him take everything I had fought for, even if it meant destroying him in the process. I didn't have a weapon. I didn't have a plan. But I had one thing left, my will to survive. I looked him in the eyes and knew deep down that this was it. The moment where everything I had ever wanted, freedom, safety, peace, was on the line. But just as I was about to make my move, a sound echoed through the house. The door creaked open, and a familiar voice called out, "Julia?" It was Adam. And that's when everything fell apart. Adam walked into the room, his eyes locking onto Marcus. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. The realization hit me with the force of a hurricane. Adam wasn't just a part of Marcus's world. He was entirely immersed in it. Adam had betrayed me. He wasn't the victim. He wasn't trying to protect me. He had been working with Marcus all along. The truth hit me like a tidal wave. Adam had never been the man I thought he was. He had been playing me, just like Marcus. And now I was caught between two monsters, with no way out. "You set me up, didn't you?" I whispered, the tears streaming down my face. You used me. All this time, you used me. Adam didn't answer. He didn't need to. His silence was the confirmation I had feared. And that was when I knew. There was no going back. There was no escaping the life I had been forced into. I had been a pawn, a tool to be used by everyone around me, including the one person I thought would protect me. I had nothing left. My marriage, my family, everything I had fought for. It was all gone. All for a lie. But as the truth sank in, one thing became clear. I wasn't going to let them win. No matter what it took, I was going to take my life back. I was going to make them pay. It's been over a year since everything fell apart. Since Marcus and Adam thought they could break me, use me, and throw me away. I never got justice for the pain they caused me. But I didn't need it. I found my own way to rebuild. On my terms. I walked away from the ashes of that life and built something new, something I could control. I learned that the hardest battles weren't fought with weapons or lies, they were fought with resilience and a refusal to let anyone take what was mine. And now, when I look in the mirror, I see a woman who survived, who rose from the depths of betrayal and found her own power. I no longer let anyone define me. Not Adam, not Marcus, not anyone. I'm Julia Montgomery, and this is my story of survival. If you've made it this far, you know that survival isn't just about living, it's about fighting for what's yours. If you've learned anything from this story, let me know in the comments. And thank you for joining me on this journey. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories of survival, strength, and empowerment.